My stepmother is up to something very, very bad. My inheritance, well, I didn't even know I had one, and apparently my dad doesn't know about it either, because my stepmom has been in charge of the bills. Well, guys, get this. She took it. I know it. I can't prove it yet, but I'm going to, and you guys are going to come along with me on the journey of exposing my evil stepmother. I've always had problems with my stepmom, and I've known for a long time that she doesn't really like me. But even then, I did not expect her to do this to me. Let me give you guys the full context. I'm 20, I'm female, I'm a college student, and I live with my father and stepmom. I also have a stepbrother, but he lives in another city where he's also pursuing his degree. My mom, whom, by the way, I loved very much, she passed away when I was about 10, and a few years later, my father married my stepmom. So I think I've already made it crystal clear that me and my stepmom don't really get along, but it wasn't always this way. When my father finally started dating and brought my stepmom home, I was happy with her. She was nice and kind, and she made it look like she would take good care of me. My dad also probably thought the same and just believed her. But all of it turned out to be a well-thought-out act. As soon as she made her way into my house, she slowly started showing me her true colors. She slowly started acting more and more mean towards me, and at first I thought this was, my mistake. At the start, I believed that I've done something to upset her, and I tried my best to make her happy. I used to think that if I tried my best, she would turn back into the loving person that I believed that she was. I know, it was dumb. It was a dumb way of thinking. But you have to remember that I was a child. It took me a while to understand that she was going to keep acting that way no matter what. And there was nothing that I could do about it. Slowly, as I figured out that she did not care about me one bit, I also grew to dislike her. And we started fighting about everything. At one point, I just outright refused to listen to her, and this caused me to get in a lot of trouble. I assume my father was very confused at the time because I had suddenly stopped liking my stepmom. But since she kept her nice facade in front of him, he could not understand why. There were many times that I complained about my stepmom to my dad, but they never believed me. I was mad at him for years because of it, but after a little time I understood that it was easier for him to believe in an adult than me. My father, would most of the time be at the office, so he never really saw how my stepmother treated me. Nor do I think, to be honest with you guys, he even cared. He would come home, believing all her lies, and would even scold me more. So after a while, I just stopped complaining. One day, my stepbrother stole the pocket money from Dad that's given me, and when I tried to get it back, my stepmother came to his defense. She instead punished me for threatening her son, and I cried the whole day. When my dad came back from the office, she told him that I had tried to steal her son's money, and my dad also scolded me. I would say that was probably the day I decided to completely give up on convincing my dad. I've never told him anything since then. That was also probably the day I decided that if my dad was happy with my stepmother, I would not try to ruin it just because she didn't like me. I spent years taking all of her punishments and putting up with her bad behavior for the sake of my own father, and I would have continued to put up with her for a lot longer if I had not discovered what I did. So all this started a few weeks ago when my aunt, whom I've not seen in forever, texted me, telling me that she's in the area. She used to live in the city many years ago, but moved to another state, and I'd not seen her since then. I was pleasantly surprised to see her text since I did not have any other relatives in the city, and would rarely get to meet anybody that I liked. I texted back and forth with her for a bit, and we decided to meet in a cafe after my classes have ended. She never got along with my stepmother and did not want to come to my house. Her dislike for my stepmom doesn't actually stem from me, but from an issue that they had years ago. But no matter what, she was and still is the only family who have believed me when I told her how my stepmom actually treated me. She even tried to convince my father many times, but he also didn't listen to her. So a few days later, I met up with my aunt and we spent the next hours catching up. I was enjoying our conversation until it shifted towards my stepmom. My aunt asked me how things were with my stepmom, and I told her that things have gotten worse with my stepmother. I explained that after about a year since my aunt left, my stepmom had made herself responsible for managing the finances, meaning that she kept most of Dad's money and was responsible for spending and saving it. For me, this meant that I was going to be receiving a lot less money if I received any in the name of pocket money. She asked me if that was the case and why I did not say anything to my father, and I explained that I did. But just like always, my stepmom just spun that around, claiming that I've received my pocket money and was asking for more. I explained to her that instead of complaining, I started working part-time jobs, which helped me earn money to buy things I wanted. I knew this wasn't a surprising thing to hear from me, but my aunt seemed really shocked. So when I asked her why she was so surprised by this, she told me something that I simply could not believe. She told me that she was surprised that I needed to work a part-time job when I had all the money that I needed. I couldn't understand what she was talking about and asked her to explain. She was once again surprised by the fact that I had no idea what she was talking about. Then she finally asked me about what I did with the inheritance money, and everything started to become crystal clear. When I said what inheritance money was, it probably clicked in her head that I had no actual idea what she was talking about. She then explained to me that I was supposed to receive an inheritance when I turned 18. This really shocked me, because I have no idea about any money. She said that it was quite a large sum and all that. Until now, she had assumed I was saving it for the future. Then she gave me the entire explanation. So, it turns out that 5 years ago, when my grandfather passed away, he left me a big chunk of savings as an inheritance. He wanted to give it to me himself when I turned 18, but because of his illness, he just left it in his will instead. Although everything she said seemed true, I still told her that I could not believe it. So, no matter what, my dad would have given the money to me or at least mentioned it in the event that he used it. Right then, something clicked in my aunt's brain, and she made a very terrified face. She said that when the will was read, only she and stepmother were present right then, and I also remembered that as soon as my grandfather passed away, my father had to leave the state for some very important business. So, my aunt and I came to the same realization. My father probably had no idea about the money. We spent the next half hour arguing because my aunt refused to believe that my stepmother would do something like this. I explained to her that there's no other person who knew, and since I've never heard about the money, it was most likely that my stepmother had used it in some way or the other. My aunt probably had no idea what kind of weapon she has just offered me. I was happier knowing that my stepmom has most probably stolen my inheritance than knowing that I even had an inheritance. I didn't care about the money much, but this information had given me the sign that it's time to expose my stepmother. No matter how much I hated her, I've never tried to break her and my father up because I've always believed that she had his best interest in mine. But this thing was ample proof that she was nothing more than a liar and a cheat. My aunt asked me what I was going to do next, and I told her that I was going to collect some evidence to show my father. She even offered to go with me to, my father and explain everything, but I declined. I told her that I would ask for her help later if I need it. Now, the reason I declined is that I've been through several situations like this with my dad and stepmom, and she always manages to avoid the blame. This time, I decided not to even give her a chance to make an excuse. I decided then and there, I'm going to gather up some evidence so that I could show my father what his wife had actually done. That day, when I returned home, my stepmother screamed at me for coming in late, and I told her I was just hanging out with friends. I tried my best to act as normal as I could so that she would not be suspicious of me. Well, guys, that was last week, and I've spent the entire week searching for things that can help me as evidence. The only idea I have so far is to look through the financial details of the house, since she handles these things. But other than that, I've got nothing. This might seem like a good idea, but I don't think I can find anything in the financial details. I believe that she's been spending a lot of money. My father would eventually find out, though, and I'm just going to look through it once just to be sure. But I'm not really expecting to find anything. This also brings me to the reason I'm even writing this post today for you guys, which is to get more ideas, and I'm hoping that somebody here can give me an idea that can help me gather up some solid proof against my stepmom. Anyways, guys, if you have any ideas of what I can do in this situation, please leave me a comment down below. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. So I can't even imagine being in OP's position where your stepmom goes behind your back and steals your inheritance and nobody even knows about it till the aunt shows up. Well, it looks like the stepmom's in for a rude awakening, but we're all assuming that OP's going to find some evidence. I don't know. Let's find out what happens in the upcoming updates. Guys, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for daily videos, and yes, it does help support the channel. Here is the first update, update number 1. Hey, it's been about 2 weeks since my original post, and firstly, I would like to thank everybody for giving me such good ideas. I appreciate all of it, and I also read many comments supporting my argument that I would probably not find the proof in the financial details, but you know what, I still have to look. But I wish I had not, because everything went wrong when I did. So at first I tried to find out if she in the last 2 years made a huge purchase of any kind, but it did not go as planned. I asked around, spoke with other relatives, and even contacted her sister to see if she was hiding something, but no matter where I looked, nothing. I also tried to talk to my father about it without mentioning anything important, but he seemed just as clueless as I was, so I asked him a weird question. If my stepmom had a substantial amount of money, what would she do with it? And he just said that, well, probably go on a holiday and something else that I didn't even consider important. I had another suspicion that my stepmom was hiding a secret bank account where she kept the money, obviously, but that did not seem true. Well, I don't have to confirm it that she doesn't have a different bank account. I don't know. But that just doesn't seem like something she would do. So, having no other option left, I put my eyes on checking our financial records to see if there was anything that could help. My stepmom stays at home most days, so I had to wait for a certain day when I knew that she would be out. I pretended to go to college that day, and when she was out of the house, I came back and started going through our financial records. It turns out that we were actually doing pretty well, and she was making me do a part-time job for no reason. Well, but other than that, I could not find any proof of her having the money. No matter where I looked, while looking through our financial stuff, I also saw what looked like a diary and got curious. I mean, I did assume that she would not have done something like steal money from her stepdaughter and write it in a diary, but I was so desperate at this point that, well, you know what? I figured that I will just go ahead and give it a shot. There was nothing of importance in there. It was all hoopla. Just stuff about, her father. So I stopped reading it and realized that I'd taken way too much time on this. I packed up everything as best as I could and bolted out of the room just as my stepmother walked up the stairs. She was surprised to see me home, and she was even more surprised to see me outside of her room. She interrogated me, asking why I was home and what I was doing close to her room. I just explained that I've come down with a fever. I'd come back home and was looking for medicine in her drawer but could not find it. So she screamed at me, saying that I should not go into her room without permission, no matter what. After that, she went in and came out with a pill and asked me to go to my room and rest. So I went to my room, not being able to process that I had almost blown my cover. The next day, everything was normal in the morning, but when I came back from college, my stepmother was waiting to ambush me. She explained that she had figured out that I had gone through the financial details of the house and got curious as to why I did it. So she asked around a bit and learned from my father that I had met my aunt a few weeks ago. That gave her information and confirmation that I probably knew about the inheritance, and then she waited for my dad to be out of the house to talk to me. She told me that it was wrong for me to look through her things, and that she could always tell my father about it if she wanted to.
Well, I told her that I wasn't going to make, these moral lessons from a woman who stole money. And she said it wasn't my money that she stole. She said that grandfather had stupidly left me money which I didn't need, so she made better use of it, and I told her that she would not get away with doing this to me, and she told me that I could never catch her. She even explained that she had covered all her tracks, and no matter what, my father would only believe her. So she told me that I could even go to a lawyer who read the will, and even they would deny that I had an inheritance. She even threatened me that if I still decided to tell anyone anything, she would frame me and kick me out of the house. Guys, I'm not gonna lie. I've heard her threats 1,000 times, but this kinda broke my spirit. What can I do? I don't have any clue at all, but, I'm pretty sure now that she knows I know she's going to tell Dad that I did something to try to shut him up or kick me out. I'll update ya. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So it looks like, well, the stepmom has some audacity on her, going ahead to reveal everything to OP and not really caring because you know what? She says she can't get caught. But let's just see if that's true or if karma's going to come around and bite her on the butt. Guys, if you want to pause the video right now and drop a comment down below, I would love to know what you think is going to happen before it happens. Anyways, here's update number 2. Although my stepmother put me in such a tough situation, I was not going to quit no matter what. I would rather be kicked out than stay with her any longer. I've taken too much for her harassment, and I would be very happy to stay on my own. I can even afford it by working part-time and staying with my friends. For everybody asking me why I haven't moved out already, I wanted to move out as soon as I turned 18. My stepmom was also happy with that, but my dad, he stopped me, saying that he wanted to spend time with me as much as he could, and I also could not leave him with a stepmother I could not trust. But if I get kicked out by my own father, I would have to move. Although I would like it if my stepmother went out instead. This is why I started looking for something else that I could use, and with some time, great suggestions from you guys, and an assist from my father, I might have actually gotten it. So, remember my conversation with my dad a while back, where I asked him what my stepmom would do with a lot of money? Although the answer he gave, it didn't really help me at the time. When I gave it a little thought, it gave me a really good option to explore. Actually, a few of the suggestions that I got from you guys were that I was forgetting my stepbrother, and that my stepmother had given money to him. At first, I had just not given this a thought, because my stepbrother is studying at an expensive college and is living a great life. When he was going to college, my stepmom's parents gave him a good amount of money to study and spend on himself. I was jealous that he got to go out of state and was living in luxury. But since my dad could not afford that anyways, I just let it go. So, coming back to my conversation with Dad, he said something that rang a bell in my head a few weeks later. So, he had said to me that if he had a substantial amount of money, he would have also sent me to a prestigious college, and would have bought me anything that I wanted. Well, this gave me ideas that a parent would most of the time try to give what they have to their child, and it also made sense that my stepmother would give the money to her son, since my dad would not be able to catch her anyways. But since he already had money from his grandparents, I believe that she had given him my money to keep safe. It turns out to be way worse than that, as I was looking for ways that I could find out if my stepbrother had my money. I made a terrifying discovery. The time my stepbrother went to college perfectly aligned with my turning 18. I didn't want to believe it, but there was a big chance that my stepbrother was using my money. Unfortunately, all my suspicions came true when I spoke with my stepmother's sister, and she confirmed that she had no idea about any money. She said that her parents didn't have much money and could not really afford to pay a huge amount. She also said that she was under the impression that my father had paid for my stepbrother's college. I didn't tell her anything more and just said that I was confirming something. So there it is. My stepmom gave away my money to my stepbrother and let me struggle while he enjoyed his life. Even as I think about this now, I can't really believe that somebody could be so cruel. Why did she do this? I mean, my dad would have paid for my brother's education anywho. So what was the reasoning behind this? I can't believe that she did this all out of greed. Well, I'll update you guys soon enough. Update number 3. I'm so glad that I did not depend on stepmom not telling and collecting as much evidence as I possibly could. Well, I also do have some great news, which you'll find out once you finish reading this update. So, about 3 days ago, as I was about to go to college, I noticed that my dad wasn't speaking to me. He looked very concerned, and when I asked him what happened, he didn't say a word to me, and as I was about to process the issue, my stepmother reminded me that I was almost late, and she left. When I returned home that day, I found my stepmom smiling. When I asked her what was going on, she only said that I would find out soon enough and that this day was going to be the best day of the entire year. This concerned me, well, for obvious reasons, so I went straight to my room. As I entered my room, I was shocked to find my stepmom packed up all my stuff, and it looked like I was moving. She came in, smiled, and told me that she packed everything up for me as she wanted to make, well, this whole thing easier on me. Before I could say anything to her, Dad came in and asked her for time to let him think. So, stepmom, she starts complaining that she had enough of me and wanted me out, and my dad was standing there just thinking. As soon as I tried to speak, he got mad at me and asked me to shut up. He said that this was all happening because of me, and it hurt when he said that. And I actually felt like moving out, but I could not leave him alone with her. So I screamed at the top of my lungs that he was not giving me a chance to explain. It turns out my stepmother has accused me of stealing her money. And when she caught me looking into the accounts, I threatened to frame her and kick her out. So I told my dad that I was going to kick her out, but by telling the truth. So, bit by bit, I told him everything, of how stepmother had stolen my inheritance and made him call his sister to confirm. While all this was happening, my stepmother looked calm and composed. It was because she believed that I did not have evidence that could actually hurt her. Obviously, I knew my father was not going to believe me with only this, and so I had more. As I was about to provide more evidence, my stepmother cut me off and told my dad that she could call the lawyer and he could directly talk to her. Before she could call, I asked my dad just to give me a chance to finish what I was trying to say, and then she could do that. Well, he agreed, but she was still smiling. See, then he asked me where the money was because he knew she did not have it with her. As I explained where it was, I saw the face of my stepmother change. I don't think she expected me to know. So I told Dad that my stepbrother has the money and was using it for college and to live a life of luxury. I also showed him proof of the using of the money and using my stepbrother's social media posts and stories as some evidence. Now, convinced that I might have more proof, my stepmother tried her best to stop me, saying I was just spreading these lies, that I should be kicked out immediately. So Dad asked her to stop, and I told her I wasn't done. She also said that father knew her parents had paid for her son's college, so nothing I said made any sense at all. Well, I told my dad I only had one last proof of evidence to show, and then it would be on him to believe me, so stepmom was looking more and more insecure as I spoke, and it looked like she had lost all the confidence that she once had. I played a recording of a call, and as soon as my stepmom realized who it was, her face went ghost pale. It was a call I made with her father and her sister. And the call I asked them if they knew who paid for my stepbrother's college, and they both said, my father. When I asked her dad if he had any way paid, he said he didn't pay $1. After he had heard the recording, my dad looked extremely mad and asked my stepmom why. She kept trying to deny it, but obviously there's no way she could lie herself out of this one. So my dad asked her once more what he had done wrong for her to do this to me, and, well, stepmom could only mumble words, but could not say anything that made a lick of sense. My dad waited, and when he could not get an answer, he asked her to get out of his house, and she gets mad at me and tried to start walking towards me, saying I had always been the problem inside of her life. Well, you know what? My dad, he stood in front of me and told her that she was the problem and he was getting rid of her. When nothing else worked, she started to cry and beg my dad for forgiveness, but he didn't even listen. When she refused to leave, he dragged her out of the house and then threw her out. Well, you know what? I'll admit this. I didn't make me happy to see her get thrown out of the house, but it didn't make me sad either. She called, she banged on the door, and screamed for my father, but he didn't say anything. When she didn't leave, he threatened to call the cops, and then she left, and after so many days, guys, I was finally relieved. I do hope this is the last time we see her, because honestly, I'm so done with her evil tactics.
What's crazy to me is this stepmom. What, did you just think you were going to get away with this? You just think that, eventually nobody's going to find out about the inheritance or question it, or OP's never going to see her aunt again? It's just so ridiculous to me that people will go and do something like this and not even think about the consequences, and now look where that has stepmom. Guys, I just want to hear your opinions on this. Maybe somebody out there grew up with a stepmother. Maybe it was perfect. Maybe they fulfilled the mom role to a T. Or maybe it could have been like today's story. So if you have any insight, I would love to hear from you guys. My name is Mr. Reddito if you're new to the channel, and I drop a story every single day across all 3 of my channels. Mr. Reddito Animated, Mr. Reddito Stories, and Mr. Reddito's Revenge. Guys, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. And of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.